Hello and happy week 5. We are third of the way done with the semester, which is pretty amazing. And I told you it would go quickly. And lo and behold, here we are launching week 5. I am still grading your essays. I'm sorry. I really just started grading them. I was trying to look at all your discussion postings and then my other comp classes. So I will have those finished for you no later than tomorrow. I always tell you, like, give me 2 weeks, but then I usually finish them within a week. So look for them. What I've seen so far look really good. Just a little heads up on that. When you go back into the Dropbox, you actually have to download the document beneath it. You'll see me say something like, please download an open copy to get my feedback. And so beneath that commentary, you'll see your first name with whatever I've named it. So in this case, it would be FD1. You actually need to download that and reopen it in order to see my feedback. If you are not seeing my feedback, if you don't see marginal comments and end comments, you need to let me know right away, and I'll get those back to you in some other fashion. If you submitted using a PDF, which I really don't like because I can't write directly on those, I will leave the feedback right in the window, which means for me, when I get them, they pop in a window. So it's the original file that you uploaded. The commentary will be directly on it. It's a little bit more challenging for me to leave that feedback, but Brightspace now has a feature that lets me leave it directly on it. Okay, so you'll get those back and you'll have a chance to review those, think a little bit about them. But like I said, they're pretty good. The idea is this, that you carry with you some of the strategies, some of the things that you saw those authors doing, and then your evaluation of them when you're thinking about the PAPL analysis and how they constructed their argument and some of the strategies they used. Now we're going to flip it, okay? So you're going to start thinking about your own research question, and that's where we're beginning. And I saw some really good research questions. I'm still posting some feedback on those, but you guys have done a good job coming up with some topics. So now you have to choose. You have to decide which of those you are most interested in exploring. And this part of the process is tricky because I know you want to say, I feel this way about this subject or topic, and narrow it that way. And I don't want you to start there. I really want you to let the research guide you. If you need to know something about anything, you start looking things up, you start reading things, you come to know more based on the research that already exists. Now that research, this research that you're going to be doing, might be factual. You don't just have to look for other people who share positions on the issue, but instead look for data, look for information. If I want to know something about oil drilling or drilling for gas in my neighborhood, I'm going to start looking for the process. Okay, so some facts, some information. Who does this? Why do they do it? What are some of the things surrounding it, the pros, the cons, but basically the process in general. So research doesn't just mean looking for people who have positions on the issue. You're going to develop a position based on what you read and what you learn and what you find out. Okay, for example, so a couple people have put down that they're, at least as one of their topics, that they're looking at vaping, and there's been a lot of information released, especially in these last 3 weeks, about vaping and some of the dangers attached to that. So if you were going to write about that, you can't know what you think until you learn a lot more about it. So you start doing some reading. What is it? How does it work? What are the different types? What kind of illnesses have been attached to that? Were those illnesses a result of the products that are sold on that the FDA have approved, or are those products that were black market products? And then what's the implication of that? Or maybe you start looking at why it's so madly popular when we know how many bad things the tobacco industry gave us over time, and how long it took before the truth came out about that. You could look at the social implications. The point is this: you won't really know where you're going until you get there, all right? So allow yourself to be open to the research. Then decide what you want to do, okay? And then once you decide that, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take this initial research should yield 10 sources. You need to identify at least 10 sources. They don't have to be arguments, but they do need to be credible sources. One of those sources needs to be a contemporary issue, like a news article, not issue, but a contemporary report on something, whether it's an argument or not an argument, but it needs to be something that's happening now. So that's going to allow you to connect and to make relevant the issue that you're talking about. So something has to have happened. Obviously with vaping, there's a zillion articles that have been released in the last couple of weeks. So you'll find something contemporary about it. Then in addition to that, you need to have at least 2 sources that come from the academic database. So you need to use the search engine for the university's library, from the university's library. If you go to the website and you walk through it, there are some tutorials there to help you find that. The rest of the research that you find can come from various places, but I would strongly recommend using the university's search engine because they're already vetting the sources for you. You don't have to do any of that legwork, right? You don't have to worry about, sorry, shaking my table. You don't have to worry about conducting a crap test because they've already done that for you. They've gone through, they've vetted the sources, especially if they're peer-reviewed journals, which you can only use so many peer-reviewed journals. I understand that, but there's good information inside there and a lot of bibliographic information that you can pull as well. Okay, so what I'm getting to is this. You're going to use this research. You're going to find it. Every time you gather some research, jot down some notes. When you find yourself kind of going into a specific direction, make sure that you provide the bibliographic information that you need to for that source. Save it, print it, do whatever you need to do. If you go back and try to find it, it's often very difficult to do that. That's the other thing. If you use the university's search engine, you can save it to your files. It will also, this is a big bonus, it will also not annotate it, cite it for you, okay, using MLA or APA, whichever you're using. From there, what you're going to do, you're going to collect 10 sources, and you're going to be working toward an annotated bibliography and a paper proposal, all right? So the annotated bibliography, and I've given you a lot of research, or I guess a lot of resources on this, I'm not really finding my words today, on how to do this and some examples, but basically it's an evaluative annotated bibliography. Annotated bibliographies serve a couple of fantastic purposes. One, as a writer, it requires you to, first of all, read the research that you're looking at. You have to know how to summarize it. In 150 words or fewer, you have to give me the details of that particular resource. And as you're doing that, you're credentialing your author, you're talking a little bit about the target audience, and you're giving me the gist of the article. It's hard to do in 150 words. Then you have a couple of sentences after that 150 words where you can indicate how you plan to use it for your, ultimately use it for your paper. Okay, some of these resources you might not end up using. That's okay. That's fine. You only have to annotate them once. This is it. And you can say that. You could say, I read this and it gave me some great ideas, but it led me in this direction or that direction, whatever it might be. Okay, so think a little bit about how you might use that particular source. The other thing that an annotated bibliography does, beyond helping the writer capture the essence of the sources, is it gives the reader a very strong body of research. So as a reader, if I'm looking at your paper and I see this really cool source annotated, I might then choose to go and look at it. I'll know what its worth is based on your annotation. So it serves double purposes there, and I love that. And you rely on these too. When you see abstracts posted, you cannot, by the way, make your annotation the abstract that already exists. That's plagiarism. You cannot do that. But essentially, that's the idea. You're giving a brief summary of the material and then putting it into the format. The rough drafts of these are due at the end of the week, so next Sunday, a week from today. It takes a long time to do research, folks. Get on it. Get on it right away because you don't know where you're going to land, like I said. You're not finished researching once you finish your annotated bib. This is, in fact, just a starting point. I won't make you annotate additional sources that you acquire as you're drafting on your essay, but I do want you to have 10 in by Sunday, and then I'll look at those. I actually think we're going to conference on these before you go forward to write the essay because it's a big undertaking, and I want to make sure we're heading in a good direction. Also, the annotated bibliographies are very precise, meaning there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, and that includes the citation. So I want them to be perfect. I want the citations to be done perfectly. That means you double check them. That means you proofread. You do all these. In all honesty, everybody should get 100% on this assignment. There should be no question about that, because if you do it and you do it well, everybody should get 100 on it. The additional piece to the annotations is a paper proposal where you indicate what you hope to write about and how you hope to shape it. Okay, so you're thinking about a couple different things. Number one, why are you interested in this topic? You're going to talk a little bit about that. And then you're going to look at how you're going to address it in the paper and what you hope to find or prove or persuade the reader to accept. So you can take a look at some of those samples and some of that material, and we'll get there. With the idea then that the following week, I'd like to be able to conference with you briefly. If you can carve out some time to meet with me for even 10 minutes, so I can sit down with you either face to face or online. We can do it virtually as well. If you want to video conference, we can certainly do that. And then we'll just hash out a little bit of what your plan is for the paper. And I just want to make sure you're on the right path or heading down the right path. As you plan for that. So that's what's happening this week. You also have a hot topic, of course. Love reading those. I love reading your responses to those. I think they're generating some good critical thinking, and you're learning a little bit about each other. I'm certainly learning a little bit about you, and I like seeing that. And there's a lot of good, interesting things popping on those boards. So keep up the good work. Don't give up the fight. We are getting there. I know it feels like summer outside, but actually tomorrow's the first day of fall. So hang in there. As always, get in touch with me if you have any questions. Have a great day. Bye, guys.